Hi, it's me Brie, aka Simsberrry, and welcome to my Smac panel. I'll be answering the questions that you guys submitted to me. I won't be able to answer every single one, but I try to get as many as I can in this video. Question number 1, how did you come up with the story of Gods of Eos? So, I came up with a story in 2020. Back then, I knew that the Canopsy effect was nearing its end, and I really wanted to have a next project to transition to after it was over. I didn't want to take a break of like a year or two to come up with a new project because I knew I'd get really stressed over it and maybe not even be able to come up with it. The project that I was initially going to do next was called The Demon King's Bride. It was also a fantasy series, but more so maybe supernatural, dark romance. I wrote the world descriptions, the character descriptions, the main plot points. I made the main Sims. I was really happy with it. And then, as I was making the minor characters, I made the Sim that she was supposed to be an angel, but she didn't look like an angel. She looked like a goddess. And then I put a snake crown on her, and it all just clicked. She was a snake goddess. She was a powerful pharaoh. And I came up with this story for her, and especially this scene. The scene that you all, if you saw Gods of Eos, saw. It was a scene with her and Azir. First episode. That was how Gods of Eos started. Then I was like, maybe I can give her a sister. So I came up with Ami, and I just came up with all of these characters all at once, basically. And I made all the Sims in like a few days, and I was hooked. I was like, oh my god, let me scrap the angels and demons story, let me put it in a folder somewhere, maybe I'll return to it someday, but Gods of Eos is gonna be my next project. What inspired you to write this story and build this world? How do you approach crafting such visually stunning scenes? Any techniques or tips you could share? Ever since I was little, I was always obsessed with mythology, especially Greek one, but also Egyptian one. So I think making like a goddess series was a natural progression. I also played a lot of Genshin Impact, and I loved the world building in that, so that very much inspired me. I also love like Legend of Zelda and those sort of like exploration adventure games where you see these visually stunning worlds and you get pulled into this story that somehow connects all these different regions and stuff. I think while in the Canopsy effect, the driving force for making the project was me telling the story and like exploring the characters. In Gods of Eos, I'm more focused on exploring the worlds and making pretty Sims. I still love the story, and I want to make it as good as it can be, but I think it's more about the visuals, at least to me. That's the part that I'm mainly focusing on for this project. I'm also very privileged, so I was able to visit basically all of the places that Gods of Eos is inspired by, so Egypt, China, Greece. I've been able to experience all that, and that has definitely helped me with creating the world. Regarding the tips, I think just think about every single thing that you put on screen. I get very obsessed with every single detail when I make my sets, and I think there's just so much visual storytelling that you can do without redundant like sentences and like over-explaining. I personally really enjoy projects that have a lot of visual storytelling. What is your favorite thing about working on this project? And what is a part of working on this project that you didn't expect to enjoy so much, if there was one? I think my favorite part of Gods of Eos is just figuring out how to push boundaries of the game. I did that with the flying dragons, the moving ships. I just love writing whatever I want in the script, and then it's Future Bree's problem to figure out how to do that. And I see it as sort of like a challenge and a puzzle, and I really want to make it look as good as it looks in my head. So I think that's one of my favorite things about it. I also didn't expect to like the set building as much because I was really worried about it. Because I knew I wanted these grandiose sets, but I've really, really been loving it. I think it's one of the best features of Gods of Eos probably because, you know, I think Gods of Eos is like visually the best and sets help with the visuals a lot. Do you have a favorite set from Gods of Eos? I was going to say the garden maybe, but no, it's definitely the entrance of the Drarian Palace. It's the one that I worked the most on, I think. And I even had to make like custom deco sims for it because I wanted to have gods as deco sims, so I wouldn't need to have like 50 sims. I think that's my favorite one. Also, I was working on it after I returned from China, so I had a bunch of photos of the Forbidden Palace on my phone, and I was like looking at them for inspo, so that was really cool. What's been the most challenging scene to film? Well, it was the scene at the entrance because even though I still had like the deco sims, I still had like a gazillion other sims that weren't deco, and I also needed to do like a dance sequence, and it took me several days to do that, and there was also like fireworks. So can you imagine your series in a different game other than Sims 4? Well, you know, part of it is in Sims 3, so I guess. Did you build the world of Eos entirely in-game or also in Blender? So, it's all in-game. But the part that may be confusing to people is that some of it is Sims 3. When I started planning Gods of Eos, I knew I wanted to have like a region that resembles China and a region that resembles Egypt. So I thought, perfect, Sims 3 actually has an expansion pack that gives you both of these worlds. And I love the combination of Sims 3 and Sims 4. It actually works really well, I think, especially because I use like a similar reshade, so there is not such a drastic difference between the two. And then for Maris, I use a custom world called Mermaidia in Sims 3, because Sims 3 has great custom worlds. Do you write the entire script for the entire series and then find voice actors, or do you do it by episode? I personally do it episode by episode. So I write one episode, I send it out, I cast the new people in it, and then I write the next episode and cast it out. Yeah, ideally I would have like episode 1 sent out and episode 2 already written, but I'm just slow sometimes and indecisive when it comes to writing. But I personally don't want to like pre-write the entire series, because if it was a series that I knew I would film in like a shorter amount of time, that's fine. But Gods of Eos, like each episode takes me months, so I'll be God knows how old when the final episode comes out. So I don't want like my writing from like a few years ago affect the story, because I know I'd be like, oh my god, you know, I wish I could change this, but it was written 5 years ago. In the Canopsy Effect, the story changed drastically after episode 1, and then like it still had like some smaller but important changes after like every episode, and I don't want to take that away from myself, because I really like how the Canopsy Effect turned out, so I want the same for Gods of Eos. What has been your favorite arc to write so far? I really love Tiberius' scenes, honestly. His arc is just that he's like a messy cheater, but I think that's just so fun, you know? And I love like filming them because the voice actors always do such an amazing job. Like Tyler is so great with like Tiberius, and then you have like Dale with Zhongwu, and you have Shadow as Hecate, and they're all such fantastic voice actors, and I just love the dynamics. And you know, also all of his other like 10 billion lovers, they also have great voice actresses. And what's the most rewarding fan comment that you've ever received? And what's the craziest? So for the most rewarding, it's a comment that I received on episode 18, I think, of the Canopsy Effect, and the comment predicted Sierra's arc. And I was so happy with that, because I love a good plot twist if it has good foreshadowing. If it's just thrown in there with like no signs of it whatsoever, I'm like, meh. But if it has good foreshadowing, I love it because you can like go back and watch the previous scenes and you already see, oh wait, there's signs that this would happen. It didn't just come out of nowhere, but there's a thin line for it where like you don't want the foreshadowing to be too obvious, but you also, want to add some foreshadowing. So I was so happy when someone was suspicious of Sierra because everyone like sort of like liked her or didn't think too much of like her actions from the past. But that comment like read her to filth. They were like, you know what, I don't trust Sierra because of how she approached North out of nowhere and already started like seducing him like the first day that they met, It's sort of giving Beatrix vibes because that's exactly what she did. And I was like, oh my god, you solved my puzzle. And then for the craziest comment I've ever gotten, I got a few crazy ones, but the craziest was definitely one that I received on episode 1 of Gods of Eos, where it was super long comment about how Azir was actually correct and Astarte shouldn't be the leader of the country because she's a woman. So that means that she has these hormones and she can't really think straight because of pregnancy and menstruation and childbirth, when Astarte is literally a 200-year-old goddess of life. So that was super crazy. Also, they shipped Ami with Azir and hope that he will be reborn in the like underworld, which they were sort of onto something because Alex voices both Azir and Ba, which is Ami's familiar. So they were onto something, but yeah, that was the craziest comment. I really hope they watch the next episodes so I can get more comments from them because it was very entertaining. Between the Knopf's Effect, Gods of Eos, and older project, you've worked on several genres so far. What genre do you enjoy directing the most, and what is a genre that you haven't tried yet that you would want to do in the future? I've done a lot of genres. So I did rom-com with Take a Shot. Then I had a really bad attempt at horror with Obsessed. I hope nobody remembers that. Then I had romance drama with Hope, fantasy with Forbidden Tale, and now the Gods of Eos. I did sci-fi / post-apocalypse with the Knopf's Effect, and then slice of life, coming of age, with Retrovi. I think my favorite one is obviously the Knopf's Effect, just because that project is so near and dear to my heart, and also it's the sort of thing that I like to watch. But there is a genre that I love watching the most that I haven't done yet, and that's police drama, murder mystery sort of thing. Like, if I'm watching TV, I'm most likely watching CSI or Bones or Castle or something like that. So in the future, maybe I would really love to do like a little, my trickster moment, but I need the main two people to be like in a ship, all those tropes. Like, I'm such a sucker for that. So if I ever do it, expect main partners to be a ship. What would you say to someone just starting out in machinima? Just do it. I think experiment, find out what you like. Don't expect your first machinima to be perfect, because I don't think anyone makes a perfect first machinima. Mine all looked like trash. There's so many of them that were even worse than the ones you can see on YouTube, because I made like a bunch before I started actually uploading. But yeah, just start. Watch some tutorials on how to film, watch some tutorials on how to film stuff that's not in The Sims, just to like learn composition, color theory, shit like that. And yeah, don't be discouraged, because you will find your niche, you will learn, and it's gonna be amazing to like look back on your project like a year later and see how far you've come, just like in any other hobby. So yeah, that was my panel. I hope you liked it and I hope you enjoyed the rest of Smac.